Good morning, universe. Hello, world.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I salute all them Soniacs out there because I'm not a morning person either. Cheers.
Cheers.
And we
It's
cheers.
time for coffee.
Yay. Oh, good coffee. Excuse me. Well, as we are in our spooky week, coming close to Halloween, Samhain, I thought we'd talk about another spooky thing today. And I was just remembering this story about a house. Not an ordinary house. And this was several years ago when I was a young teenager living in Brazil in the town of Varginha, Minas Gerais. And I was out just walking around town during the day with a couple of new friends from the neighborhood. And one of them said, let's go look at the haunted house. And I thought, oh, haunted house? I didn't know there was a haunted house around here. Oh, yeah, there is. And let's just go see the haunted house. I said, okay. And we're going and we're walking. It was about 3 streets down from my grandmother's house that lived downtown. And on the way there, I was asking them, what about this house? How do you know? Is it haunted? How do you know? I don't know, just haunted. They just knew it was haunted. Didn't know anything else. And then when we got to this house, it was a large house, 2 storage, quite big. And it stayed right in between roads. It was an intersection. It was right at the edge of a street. There was a road coming one way and the other another way. So it was right at the crossroads right there. And many of you know how important that is to magic and witchcraft and all of that. About meeting at the crossroads, talking to some of the gods of the underworld that are right there on the crossroads. But that I just thought about it now because I was remembering where the house is. And it's in the crossroad. And I look at the house and I thought, oh, this house looks very familiar. I know this house. There's something about this house. I know this house. And the house was number 666. Was that a coincidence? Probably. Could be. But the location was quite interesting. And we just looked around, saw nothing, felt nothing, and that was it. And then I got home. And then I told my mother, I said, did you know there's a haunted house a couple streets down from Grandma's house? This house in the corner, 666. And she said, yes, it's haunted. We lived there. I said, oh, I knew it felt familiar. So we were there for 3 months. We moved out because the place is haunted. I said, well, what about it? When we were upstairs, there was a lot of noise downstairs. You could hear people walking downstairs, steps. And then when you're upstairs, you hear people downstairs. And doors would open and close. And too much noise. And we left. We didn't stay. And then I kept thinking about it. Then I remembered a couple times in that house. I remember one time, and I might have been 3 or 4 years old on that in the middle there. My siblings weren't born yet, so I know it was a very long time ago. And I remember we were playing hide and seek. And I went in my mother's closet. And I thought, brilliant, nobody's gonna come in here. No, nobody's gonna find me in the closet. And I went in the closet, closed the closet door. I'm there in the dark. It was complete dark. I couldn't see nothing. And then I realized I dropped my little ring. I had this ring that comes with a bubble gum. Most of you probably remember those kind of toys, and it was plastic, but it was special to me. I was a child and I loved it, and it was bigger on my finger. I was a small child, and it fell. I heard it fall right there in the closet, and so I'm bent down and I'm looking, and I'm on my knees and I'm on my floors there looking around and patting the floor and all around me. Nothing. Couldn't find the ring. And then I continued walking around the place and feeling the floors and walking in one direction. I didn't come back. I didn't rotate. I didn't turn around. I kept going. I kept going and going and going. And there was no end to that closet. I was there going, and going and going, and I probably fell asleep afterwards. But finally, the babysitter found me, and she was horrified. She was like, "We've been looking," because I said, "Oh, you found me," because I was still playing hide and seek. And then she said, "I've been looking for you for 4 hours." I was walking around, not around, but in one line, inside that closet for 4 hours. Straight. Which reminds me a lot of Narnia. And by the way, I never found my ring. Never found it. But that stuck in my head because I didn't feel like I was there that long. And I remember walking in front of me. Just walking and walking in the darkness and walking and never turning and never getting anywhere and never found my ring. And then later that day, I also remembered in front of the house there was a decline on the ground, and there was a house down. There was a hill. There was a house down there, a smaller, quite modest house, and children would throw rocks from up in that terrain, and down the house, and they would scream witch. They throw a house to the wall. They say there was a witch that lived in the house down there. And I was too little. I remember wanting to play. I wanted to be part of the play, and I picked up a rock too. But I didn't throw. I didn't know what was going on. I remember my confusion. That is the funny thing, to remember that confusion of not knowing exactly what was happening, why we're throwing rocks, and what does a witch mean, what is that, what is going on. And then I remember looking up, and there was this woman with her hair was all messed up. And she had that brick. She was holding a brick over her head, and she was going to smash my head with it. She was just going to bring that down because I was the only child remaining there with a rock on my hand. Everybody had ran. I'm so little. I don't know what's going on. I'm just there observing and trying to figure out what is going on. And my babysitter just grabbed me. In that instant, she grabbed me. And I still remember the mad look in that woman's eyes. She probably would have killed me. I don't know. Or maybe she was trying to spook me. But it was a bad thing. It was ugly. So there you go. You have a haunt in the house. You have a witch living right underneath the street right there. And what could be? What could it be? You can make all the you can think of many possibilities right there. And that was the first haunted house I can remember going back. And Andrew has nothing to say.
It's a great story with an infinite wardrobe.
An infinite wardrobe. That's true. But I don't remember anything bad. I don't know. I was too little, Still today, when I see any spirit or ghost or anything like that, I'd never really felt anything bad. But that was a very interesting house, a surprise to remember. And that's our story for today. And many things that happen in a haunted house. People believe spirits can stay. They don't want to leave. There's so many thoughts about it. There's so many stories. There's so much going on. And there a lot of it that I have encountered, a lot of it is they're recordings. They're as if a story got recorded up in the air that happened in that place. And for others to see in the future, it's just a recording. It's just something passing through that is right there. But it happened a long time ago. It's not like something that is still there and happening. There are a lot of recordings like that. When we lived in our house in Iowa, in the basement, I remember once we had little boxes for the cats in the basement. And I remember once being there, and I just, something got my attention to my side, and I looked, and I saw a man passing from one wall, entering the other wall. And he was dressed up like a couple 100 years ago, was dirty of coal, and there was a coal mine town right there where my house used to be, our house used to be. And the man was just passing by, and I'm thinking that one was a recording, because you feel no life from it. That's the difference. That's how you know. It's like watching a hologram, something that was recorded, a TV image. You know the difference than seeing a person passing by. There is some energy you would feel if it is alive. It was not alive. It just passed by. And at that same basement one day, this is such a weird and crazy story, because people, what's the point of that? But I was doing the little boxes, and I heard a noise, boom. I turned around, and we had extra little boxes that were not used, new ones, stacked on this big, heavy wooden table on the corner. And one of those little boxes was on the ground. It had fell on the floor. And they were all stacked. Remember that, they were all stacked. And I thought, oh well, they just fell, I didn't think anything of it. And then I'm there, still cleaning the little box. And then I felt something. And that made me turn around. And I turned around. There it is, this other little box, empty, hovering in the air. Right in front of me. There were about 5 feet, probably. 5 to 6 feet away from me. On the air. There's nothing else. I couldn't see nobody holding it or nothing. And I saw it, and it lasted a few seconds. I'm still looking at it. It's still in the air. I don't know what to think of it. I'm not thinking anything. I'm just observing. I'm just looking. All right, I'm just looking. And then it fell. Someone obviously was trying to catch my attention. That's what I think that happened that day. This is during the day. Both cases, during the day. This didn't even have to be nighttime. During the day. I also saw a spectrum, like a little ghost of my little cat when Bella passed away, that going behind the washing machine. The washer dryer used to be also downstairs, and he used to go, he'd take toys and he'd play around the washing machine and behind the washing machine for some reason. And I saw him, and I thought, oh, there goes Bella. And then I remembered, oh no, but Bella died.
Didn't he used to tell you when the washing was done?
He did. The washing machine would beep, sing a little song when it was done, and he would come upstairs to tell me. he'd talk, he'll meow, 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 meow. And if I followed him, he'd take me right to the washing machine. He'd tell me when it was done. So it was the cutest thing. Was there anything else in the house? Yeah, when and it's interesting. It's a lot about energy and the cleansings to do in the house. If you get a new house, if you want to do some cleansings, and for instance, when Bella passed away, I had to give the order to put him to sleep because they operated, and once they opened, it couldn't be fixed, and he couldn't stay the way he was before, and my husband called me on the phone and said, so what are we doing? We're stitching him up. I said, we can't. There's no, we couldn't. And I said, okay, put him to sleep. And that brought me, that was horrible. And I screamed. I let it out. I screamed. I fell on my knees on the floor and I screamed. And I screamed and I cried and I cried and I cried. And that created some energy in that area in the kitchen that one day I passed by. I felt sad. I wanted to cry. And I thought, what's going on? And it happened a couple more times. And then I started thinking, because when you deal with energies, when you work with magic and sorcery and witchcraft, all that things, you start thinking differently. You start thinking outside to yourself. You start thinking, this is not me. This is not how I normally feel. So what caused it? And it brought me back to that time. I remember right in that spot, I had that horrific crying moment. And it created an energy there of sadness, of grief that stayed right there. And it just needed to be released. So, and you release, you move around. Circles. Energy gets stuck in corners of the house. It needs to move. Houses should be round, not square. But they're not. So hang some, they call them witch balls, or those glass balls. And you see that's a sphere shape. Hang it on the corners. Now put a little hook on the ceiling and hang it in the corners of your house, because that will make energy go around. Circulate. You want it to circulate. Also, what I learned growing up in my family is that if you have things you don't use, you have accumulated stuff, don't hoard things. You have accumulated. We needed to learn a lot about that because we're moving to a smaller house, and this is not. We're not gonna have a lot of stuff ever again.
It's a big lesson.
It's a big lesson. But if you have stuff laying around, doesn't have to be magical stuff. Any stuff. Have a pile of stuff in a place in your house that you don't touch, that you don't use. Get rid of it. Get rid of it, because the energy needs to circulate. It needs to circulate. It's the same thing. If you leave it there, it is as if you have a little pond in right there on the floor of your house, that the water doesn't move, and it is going rotten, and it is stagnated. It is getting rotten. It is getting flies, and it is getting all kind of creepy things, because it's the same principle. That's what it happens with stuff that is just laying there and not being used. And also, when you want to cleanse things, you just you're gonna feel. You pick a jewelry up. Crystals need cleansing all the time. You pick something up, and you're going to feel that it is heavy. It feels heavier. It feels sticky. There's that sticky, as if there was glue that kind of almost dried up but didn't all the way. It feels sticky and heavy, and it smells and dense, and it kind of smells. Bad energy and all that stuff. It smells. I can smell it. There's a smell to it. I don't know if you could, but I do smell it. So rose water is a fantastic thing to just spray on it. I used to sell my high vibes that anybody's ever interested in November after I move. It's got the two highest vibrations in the planet, and rosy water is one of it. And you spray and you cleanse and elevate. But then the most simple thing you can do, and most effective, this is more effective than sage. Some people are going to say no, but it is, believe me, salt. I don't care what salt it is. Any salt. You want to do Himalayan salt? I congratulate you. Go ahead. It's the best salt. But any salt will do. Little package of salt from, fast food, junk places, junky food, that would do too. Keep those little packets of salt. Any salt. Put salt on a bowl, on a glass bowl. Put water. Put it away from your pets. You don't want them drinking salt water. Water and salt. Leave it in a place you think it's a little heavy, that needs some cleansing. And then you watch it. After a few days, you change that water. Throw it down the toilet. Flush it. Put another new water and salt in there. You're going to see inside the bowl of water, there are rims of salt on top of the water because the water boils. The water attracts the negativity, the salt cleanses, and in that process, the water boils. You will see the rims of salt. So you see the rims of salt, you know that thing is done, you need to replace it. Throw it away, wash the dish, put another salt and water there. Keep it going. Keep it going. And have some fresh, doesn't have to be fresh, but also spray some rose or some jasmine and any sweet flower. It can be, if you don't have the rose water, can't have the essential oil, you can make a tea. Any tea that the flowers are sweet, like rose is the most common one used. Even lavender will do. Spray around afterwards. You can make a tea and put it in a spray bottle. Spray it around. It's okay. Because only salt, too much salt, dries in a magical way that money doesn't come to you. It's salted. It's like earth that's been salted, and nothing can grow from it. So that's an insight that most people don't know about. You also need, like when you do a bath, that you use salt. And I learned that salt is the neck down. You do not put salt on top of your head. Never. That's how I learned. Everybody puts salts everywhere now. But how I learned not to put it on my head, so I don't. Maybe you don't want to exercise the God that lives on top of your head, which is your higher self. maybe that's why you don't put salt there. I don't know the reason why, but that I learned in my family. Salt is the neck down. Salt in a bathtub, just the neck down. Don't have a bathtub, you can dissolve salt in a warm water bucket and just, pour that on you. Wait a little bit and then rinse it off. And cleansing, you can cleanse other materials with salt and water. I have a YouTube little video how to cleanse it. That was also from that I learned with the Frosts that I talked in the other audio. I remember the name, Yvonne and Gavin Frost. Unfortunately, Gavin passed away a few years ago. They created the Church and School of Wicca, and they are online. They teach. They're in North Carolina, I think. I don't think it's South. I think it's North Carolina. And I'm not a Wicca, but I know their work, and it's really great. And then they do this very little ritual of the salt and water that you boil to cleanse jewelry and other things. And I made a YouTube video. I'm gonna put the link in the comments to this so you can also see. And if you're watching this on YouTube, look through my videos. It's right there.
A couple other things that are considered traditionally quite cleansing for the environment from the more Eastern traditions. One is the burning of camphor. And camphor, natural camphor, is the ideal as opposed to synthetic. This is typically findable either in a good health food store like a Whole Foods or your local co-op. Or Indian grocery stores would have it as well, because it's used very commonly in the different ceremonies and rituals that go back thousands of years from India. Also, if you make it to an Indian grocery store, they typically have little bottles of Ganges water,
Oh, that
which
is
is considered to
amazing.
be very holy, powerful, high energy. Ganges is considered to be the holiest river on earth, or the most powerful sacred river, maybe better to say,
Yeah.
on earth. Now, this is not for drinking.
Don't drink
Yeah.
it
Uh, but a few
ever.
drops sprinkled or sprayed in the areas that you're looking to cleanse can also have a powerful influence. According to different traditions, this is the understanding.
It is great stuff. I had the camphor is a resin. It comes in a resin form. It's white, little package. You just want to burn a tiny little bit. It's very
Yeah.
strong. And remember, when burning anything, windows open. Windows open. You don't want to inhale.
Right, right,
Nothing.
yeah.
Nothing.
And you stay around it. You know, you don't let it burn without yourself in the room.
Yes.
And the traditional way and a safe way to burn camphor, if you're not familiar with it, is that you would take a small dish or maybe a little brass receptacle, put some rice in it or some other grain, but rice is the most common, and then just put the little bits of camphor on top of the rice and then light it with a match or a lighter or whatever.
And that's the normal way they do it
Yeah.
in India.
Right.
The container has to be fireproof.
Right, exactly.
And it might get hot, so don't put it on a wooden table.
Right.
Or put another dish underneath.
Yeah.
And the rice, a little bit of it's raw rice,
Right.
and it will burn a little bit where the camphor is. The rice will burn a little bit, which is fine.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
natural,
a problem.
yeah.
And you light it up. You light the camphor. You light a match and light the camphor, and it will catch on fire, and it will distribute that scent all over the place that cleanses everything. It's really great stuff.
It's typically doing that is a very common and powerful aspect of many of the very uh, energized and powerful rituals done in the Vedic tradition and from India, and also in different Tibetan and Chinese traditions. It is considered to be part and parcel of getting things accomplished through energy work.
Yeah. And if you're used to using charcoal, self-lighting charcoals to burn incense in, you do that. Put the resin on top of it. A little piece will do it. Tiny. I'm talking about small.
Yeah.
Go small because it's extremely strong. And then you talked about the Ganges water, the Ganga water.
Yeah.
The Ganges water is fantastic. I used to add a little bit in my Calm the Nerves oil, which was a very old formula.
And high vibes too.
Yeah, I did, but then I didn't think it
Okay.
needed. I put on high vibes once, but I didn't think it needed. But the Calm the Nerves, it needed it. It helped in calming in a spiritual way. And I just sprayed over your head, and it was just, you feel it. And then to calm the nerves. I don't like to use it because it makes my brain shut down. I don't think. I get very quiet, and I need to think. I need to think. I'm always planning and doing things. It is only if you really, really need to be very quiet. It will stay quiet for hours on end. When I make it, I used to make it very careful. I didn't want it to spill on me. Even the scent would already calm me too much. But the Ganges water, you can even put a little drop on top of your head. I used to do that.
Yes.
And then you can feel the energy. If you're sensitive to energy, it's like, boom, you can feel it. You're calm. You're good. You're clear. It brings a sense of spirituality as if you entered a very sacred temple. If you want that vibration of a very sacred temple, that does it immediately. Right there and then, you become that space. What about Rudraksha? We need to talk about the Rudraksha.
That's another whole big talk.
It's a whole talk.
But
But
there is a traditional.
we can talk about
Yeah.
it another time.
Yeah,
then.
there's just to define
Yeah.
the term. There is a sacred plant that produces seeds that are then turned into beads, and that is known as Rudraksha. Rudraksha translates to Rudra's tears. Rudra was one of the names of one of the more powerful entities in the Vedic Hindu tradition. And this can be used for a variety of purposes. Wearing it as the most common thing is to wear it as a form of protection and keeping your energy moving upwards. And we'll get into that with some elaboration at a future date.
Yeah, it has saved me a few times from possession, from spirit possession. It did. They have it on. It's great stuff. Okay, so that's it for today. And stay good, stay well, be safe.
Love your neighbor.
Love your neighbor, even if you don't. Don't know about that one.
These are days where compassion is called for more than anything else.
That is true. And let that big bright star inside of you shine outside of you. You know, let it shine. That's such a silly thing to say.
Yeah, it's a great thing to say. It's just overused, but
I know.
It's time to bring it back.
Yeah, let it shine. Spread some glitter around.
Thanks for listening.
Be good. Bye bye. Kisses and bye bye.